The grand ballroom of the historic Crestmont Convention Center shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers as executives, journalists, and international investors gathered for the highly anticipated merger announcement between Meridian Biotech and a global investment consortium. Amelia Brooks adjusted the presentation folder tucked beneath her arm, balanced a simple arrangement of blue orchids intended for the guest of honor, and calmly stepped toward the entrance just as the newly elected chairman, Victor Langford, arrived surrounded by assistants and security personnel, completely unaware that the quiet woman standing before him carried far greater influence than anyone in the room imagined. Amelia extended her hand with a warm but professional smile and said, "Welcome to Meridian's annual leadership summit, Mr. Langford. I hope your journey was comfortable." But before she could finish, Victor glanced first at the flowers, then at her modest business attire, and finally at the identification badge hanging from her neck before letting out a dismissive chuckle that echoed through the nearby microphones prepared for the live broadcast. "I don't waste formal greetings on event coordinators," he replied coldly, making no effort to lower his voice, causing a ripple of awkward laughter from several executives while photographers continued capturing every expression and every uncomfortable second that unfolded before the cameras. Without showing the slightest hint of embarrassment, Amelia slowly lowered her hand, carefully placed the flowers on a nearby reception table, and quietly walked to an empty chair near the front of the conference hall instead of disappearing behind the scenes as everyone expected. Several board members exchanged amused glances, assuming she had misunderstood where she belonged, while Victor confidently took the stage and opened the meeting by praising the company's ambitious expansion strategy, completely unaware that his first public decision as chairman had already begun setting into motion a chain of events that would reshape every plan carefully prepared for that morning. As financial forecasts filled the enormous display screens and polished speeches celebrated a future of unlimited growth, Amelia listened silently until the chief financial strategist hesitated during an important presentation slide and admitted that one final authorization remained before the merger funds could legally be transferred. Victor dismissed the concern with an impatient wave and insisted that the paperwork had already been approved weeks earlier. But Amelia calmly rose from her seat and spoke with quiet confidence, saying, "That authorization cannot be completed because the final approval belongs exclusively to me. And unless today's conduct is addressed honestly, the entire investment package will remain permanently unavailable." The conference hall fell into an uneasy silence as conversations dissolved into whispered speculation, and for the first time that morning the confident expressions around the executive table gave way to uncertainty while dozens of curious eyes settled on Amelia with renewed attention. The chief financial strategist slowly stood and cleared his throat before addressing the room, saying, "Ms. Brooks is not a member of our event staff as many of you assumed. She is the founding trustee of the Sterling Horizon Capital Alliance, the organization providing the lead investment that represents nearly 60% of this merger's financial backing," leaving even the reporters momentarily speechless as Victor's expression shifted from smug confidence to cautious disbelief. Victor forced a polite smile and attempted to recover control by inviting Amelia to the stage so they could begin again with the proper introductions. But she remained exactly where she was and answered in a calm voice, "Respect cannot be restarted simply because someone discovers a title they find valuable." Her measured response spread through the room more powerfully than any raised voice could have, prompting several directors to lower their eyes, while others quietly reviewed the merger agreement on their tablets, until one board member suddenly paused after noticing a section labeled Professional Conduct and Ethical Representation, a clause that had attracted little attention during previous negotiations but now carried unexpected significance. One of the company's legal advisors carefully explained that the agreement contained an unusual provision requiring every senior representative involved in the merger to maintain professional conduct throughout all official meetings because the investment group considered leadership behavior an essential indicator of future corporate stability. The advisor further clarified that any verified public display of discriminatory treatment, abuse of authority, or conduct capable of damaging stakeholder confidence granted the investment alliance the contractual right to suspend or permanently withdraw funding without financial penalty. And several executives instinctively glanced toward the television cameras, whose recording lights had remained illuminated since the meeting began, preserving every exchange from multiple angles. Recognizing the growing tension, the independent members of the board requested a brief recess to privately assess the legal implications while journalists were temporarily escorted from the ballroom, creating an atmosphere far heavier than the celebration originally planned for the merger announcement. During the break, Amelia quietly stepped onto a peaceful rooftop terrace overlooking the city's skyline and placed a single phone call to her organization's executive committee, speaking only a few carefully chosen sentences before concluding. Please activate the governance review and place every pending capital transfer on immediate hold until the board demonstrates that integrity carries the same value as profitability. After which she ended the call, returned inside with composed determination, and found an entirely different room waiting for her. When the meeting resumed, the atmosphere had transformed from confident celebration into disciplined crisis management, and the enormous presentation screens displaying optimistic financial projections suddenly seemed meaningless as phones vibrated across the conference table with urgent updates from banks, regulators, and international partners seeking immediate clarification about the investment freeze. The chief financial strategist quietly informed the board that Sterling Horizon Capital Alliance had officially suspended every scheduled transfer pending the outcome of a governance investigation, and the announcement spread through the room like a wave, leaving even the most experienced executives struggling to hide the realization that the company's future had changed within a single morning. Victor attempted one final appeal by insisting that a misunderstanding should never outweigh years of negotiations, but Amelia met his gaze with calm professionalism and replied, "Business agreements are built on trust long before they are built on signatures, and every decision a leader makes becomes part of the organization's reputation." Her words encouraged several independent directors to request an emergency governance review, and after carefully examining the recorded footage, witness statements, and contractual obligations, the board unanimously concluded that leadership accountability could not be ignored simply because the consequences had become expensive. By the end of the afternoon, the board announced that Victor would step aside while an independent ethics committee completed its investigation, and the merger discussions would remain suspended until new leadership demonstrated a genuine commitment to fairness, professionalism, and respect for every individual regardless of appearance or position. As executives quietly left the conference center, many paused to thank Amelia for reminding them that influence should never replace integrity, while younger employees who had witnessed the events carried home a lesson that would shape their own careers: that true authority is earned through character, humility, and the courage to uphold principles even when doing so comes at a tremendous personal or financial cost. The following weeks brought meaningful reform throughout Meridian Biotech as new leadership introduced transparent governance standards, mandatory leadership accountability programs, and a workplace culture where every employee's voice received equal respect, proving that one principled decision could inspire lasting institutional change far beyond a single boardroom. Please subscribe to our channel and share.